Hello and welcome to Complete JavaScript course. In first chapter of this JavaScript course, that is Introduction to JavaScript, we have discussed what is JavaScript and its usage in different industries and application development. In today's video, we will learn JavaScript history, what is EcmaScript, JavaScript versus EcmaScript, then EcmaScript releases, and finally we will look into JavaScript engine. So before you start learning technical side of language or before you start learning coding in JavaScript, it's important to get an understanding of how JavaScript was first introduced and how it became powerful programming language today. It's really important to know about how JavaScript releases work. If you don't know how language and its ecosystem have progressed, then you'll not be able to understand certain concepts in modern JavaScript as well. And maybe you will not be able to debug the complex issues in JavaScript. So the best way to learn JavaScript version is by looking at history of JavaScript. Again, like first chapter, this chapter will be more theoretical, and from the next chapter we will start coding along with JavaScript concepts. So let's start with JavaScript creation at Netscape. After the internet was invented, web browsers were developed. The first web browser, Mosaic, was released in 1993. It was developed with graphical user interface and it was accessible to everyone. Mosaic played a major role in the rapid growth of internet. The lead developer of Mosaic then founded Netscape Corporation and released more polished browser version, Netscape Navigator, in 1994. This quickly became the most used web browser. During these initial years of web pages were static. Web pages were not dynamic. That means you can just read content on the web page, but you cannot interact with it, or you cannot update content dynamically. You cannot do actions like login or sign up in static website. It's like you are reading newspaper. Developer wanted to make website more interactive. So basically they needed a programming language for browser to make interactive web pages. For example, on mouse click or any button click on particular website, web page content should dynamically update. So this was the major need to create this new programming language for browser. In 1995, Netscape decided to add scripting language to Navigator, and Brandon Egg creates the first version of JavaScript in just 10 days. It was called Mocha. In September 1995, Mocha then renamed to LiveScript when first shipped as a part of Navigator Beta. In December 1995, LiveScript name was changed to JavaScript for the official release. JavaScript name caused confusion, implying that it is related to Java. Java was popular language at that time. It is considered that JavaScript name was marketing ploy. This is how JavaScript is invented in year 1995. Internet Explorer creation at Microsoft. In same year, Microsoft launched Internet Explorer in 1995, leading to a browser war with Netscape. Microsoft reverse engineered JavaScript and Navigator interpreter to create its own language called JScript. JScript added in Internet Explorer and was released in 1996 along with initial support for CSS and HTML. Implementation of Netscape and Internet Explorer were different from each other. Internet was growing like crazy around that time, and these browsers were working differently due to different implementations. These differences made it difficult not only for end users but for developers to make their website work well in both the browsers. So soon people realized that they needed to standardize web browser behavior or JavaScript language. Basically, same code should work in both the browsers with same behavior. So if language is not standardized, then in future some other organization can create new browser and they can implement their own scripting language, which may behave differently than Netscape and Internet Explorer. So it will cause an chaos. Then scripting language was submitted to independent standard organization called ECMA for standardization. EcmaScript creation. In November 1996, Netscape submitted JavaScript to ECMA International as a starting point for standard specification. ECMA is an organization that creates standard for technologies. To understand standard for technology concept, you can take example of mouse or keyboard. So every keyboard manufacturer creates same keyboard with QWERTY layout. For mouse as well, it comes with left click, right click button and center scroll bar. Because these manufacturers agrees to follow certain design standards and create product accordingly, so that everyone who uses keyboard, they'll have the same setup for all the keys at exact same position. So in case of JavaScript, it was decided that ECMA International will decide standard specification for JavaScript and all browser vendors should conform to it. What is ECMA? ECMA is a short form for European Computer Manufacturer Association. This organization was founded in 1961 to standardize computer system in Europe. So the ECMA standards are governed through technical committee and each committee is responsible for certain area. For example, TC39 is responsible for EcmaScript, TC45 is responsible for Office Open XML. This led to an official release of first EcmaScript language specification in June 1997. EcmaScript 262. This is an standard published by ECMA International. It contains the specification for general purpose scripting language. So ECMA 262 is standard like QWERTY design, but instead of representing keyboard or mouse layout specification, it represents scripting language specification called EcmaScript. EcmaScript provides standard that scripting language must observe to be considered EcmaScript compliant. Most important part is all browser vendor should stick to EcmaScript standard only. So you can see the EcmaScript standards on this website. Now, what's the difference between JavaScript and EcmaScript? So JavaScript is a trademark of Oracle Corporation in United States. This trademark was originally issued to Sun Microsystem on 6 May 1997 and it was transferred to Oracle when Oracle acquired Sun in 2010. So the further distancing the language from Oracle owned trademark, the official name of language specified by TC39 committee and formalized by ECMA International body is EcmaScript. In other words, JavaScript that runs in your browser or the JavaScript that runs on your server side using Node.js framework is an implementation of EcmaScript standard. So JavaScript is general purpose scripting language that conforms to EcmaScript specification. JavaScript mostly implement EcmaScript specification as described in ECMA 262 standard. So let me ask you one question to make it more clear about EcmaScript and JavaScript differences and how this ecosystem works so that you'll get better understanding about JavaScript and EcmaScript. Let's say you want to create new language which is alternative to the JavaScript. So first question is, can you create your own scripting language which is alternative to JavaScript? If yes, what are the steps? So as we said, JavaScript is scripting language which follows EcmaScript standard. So next thing you should know, what is JavaScript engine? So JavaScript engine is a program or interpreter that understands and executes JavaScript code in host environments. For client side, it's browser. So each browser has their own JavaScript engine. For example, Chrome has V8. When you add JavaScript code on web page using HTML, V8 engine will interpret and execute your JavaScript. Now to create new language, this new scripting language, you need to get starting by reading EcmaScript. So this is first step. You should understand EcmaScript specification and then you can work on your language syntax and specification. So the second step is you need to write interpreter or compiler for this new language, which will convert your high level language code to low level or machine level language. Then once you are done with this language syntax specification and interpreter, then you need to propose this specification to an organization like TC39 committee or ECMA International, and you need to convince them that these are the specification that you have written for this new language and you need to take approval from them. So this is mostly, I think, hardest part of all. Even in best case, if your proposition gets accepted, then you need to convince browser vendors to implement your language, and every browser should understand your new language. Certainly this will not happen because all the companies are heavily invested in EcmaScript, and all the JS runtime engines are stable, which are working fine in all the browsers, in all the mobile devices. So no one is going to replace JavaScript that easily. Again, it would require lot of efforts and money, since browser developers all around the world need to implement your specification. So Microsoft has failed with JavaScript and VBS, and Google also I think failed it with Dart. So you must have understood that JS will stay for a longer time. But with this example, how to create alternative language to JavaScript, you might have understood the differences between EcmaScript and JavaScript, and how exactly JavaScript works in browser. So remember, EcmaScript is standard specification which JavaScript follows, and all browser vendor develop their JavaScript runtime or JavaScript engine which conforms to EcmaScript. So anything new feature which gets added to EcmaScript, by default all browser vendor need to update their JavaScript runtime so that this new feature will be included in their runtime, so that if you write your JavaScript using that feature, that will be understood by this JavaScript runtime and it will work in that particular browser. I hope now this ecosystem is clear for you and you are clear with JavaScript, EcmaScript and JavaScript engine. Now let's see how EcmaScript versions released in later years. So in 1997, EcmaScript version 1 was released, and IE4 was the first browser to support EcmaScript 1. EcmaScript 2 was released in 1998, and IE5 was the first browser again to support EcmaScript 2. At that time, Netscape 42 was released with JavaScript 1.3, and in year 1999, EcmaScript 3 was released, and again, Internet Explorer 5.5 was the first browser to support EcmaScript 3. So this during initial period of early 2000s, or during this period of Internet Explorer dominance, client-side scripting was stagnant. This started to change in 2004. So when successor of Netscape, which is Mozilla, released Firefox browser. Firefox was well received by many developers, taking significant market share from Internet Explorer as well. And it was well received by people. Google launched its first browser, which is Chrome, in year 2008 with V8 JavaScript engine that was faster than its competitor. So the key invention was just-in-time compiler in Chrome. So other browser vendors also needed to implement this JIT compiler for their JS engine. The first draft of EcmaScript 4 was created around February 1999. The original target for completion was August 2008. EcmaScript 4 was very ambitious and added a lot of features that were considered as important. It also fixed number of things in previous version, making it backward incompatible in various ways. ES4 was met with bunch of controversies and lacked sufficient support from browser vendors to be released, and it was ultimately cancelled. In 2008, the standard was pronounced dead, and ES 3.1 was renamed to ES5, which was much more conservative and incremental update to EcmaScript, finally reaching to maturity. So after a lot of complications and disagreement about where the language should be headed in future, ES5 was released with a lot of great new feature. And then finally, another 6 years later, the much awaited new version ES6 was launched in June 2015, again with lot of features. EcmaScript changed release cycle to annual release cycle. So right now, there's going to be new release every single year. So according to this new annual release cycle, in 2016, EcmaScript 2016 released, and like this, it will continue going forward. So this annual release is helpful for everyone. It's helpful for developers as well as for browser vendor. So just adding small number of feature every year is better than shipping lot of changes after a couple of years. It's going to be much easier for everyone to keep up to date. So there are no ES7 or ES8. It's now called EcmaScript suffixed by year. For example, EcmaScript 2022. So year will be suffixed after EcmaScript verb. Now let's talk about TC39 committee. As discussed, EcmaScript standards are governed through technical committee and TC39 committee is responsible for EcmaScript releases. The TC39 committee is comprised of people from different web invested companies such as browser makers, Mozilla, Google, Apple. This TC39 meets on regular basis to review work done by members since last meeting. They discuss issues and vote on proposals. All TC39 proposals progress through 5 stages. So first stage is stage 0, then stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 and stage 4. You can read more about this stage process here on these links, and this all the proposals are documented on GitHub repository as well. The first stage is stage 0 proposal. So this proposal is planned to be presented to committee by TC39 champion, or proposal has been presented to committee and not rejected definitely, but it's not achieved any of criteria to get into stage 1. So even if someone is not on TC39 committee, they can propose new change to this committee, and then this particular proposal will stay in stage 0. So once proposal goes to stage 1, so the stage 1 proposal represents problem that committee is interested in spending time and exploring solution to. Then proposal goes to stage 2, stage 3, and once proposal reaches to stage 4 status, it is eligible to be included in the next yearly revision of language. It can take anywhere from several months to few years for a proposal to work its way through these stages. All proposals are managed in the open on TC39 GitHub repository. You can see all the proposal list on this link. Anyone, whether on TC39 or not, is welcome to participate in this public discussion and the process. But only TC39 committee can attend meetings and vote on proposal and new changes. TC39 committee member or TC39 member carries a lot of weight where JavaScript will go in future. You must be thinking it's interesting to know JavaScript history and its releases, but how it will help me as a developer while writing program in 2022 or 2023? Do I need to learn how JavaScript was working in older browser, or the browser which was supporting older script, EcmaScript version, for example EcmaScript 2015? It is really important to understand how older JavaScript works, because actually new JavaScript is just thin layer over the old features. In case if you are writing any new feature on the latest browser, and let's say if you stuck anywhere, if you need to debug that issue, you should really understand how JavaScript works so that you can debug that issue easily. Because if you are not clear with basic concepts, then you may stuck where you will encounter any complex issue while writing the code. Let's discuss JavaScript engine. So JavaScript engine is a software component that executes JavaScript code. The JavaScript engine, like those are interpreter, but all modern JavaScript engine uses just-in-time compilation to improve web performance. So JavaScript engines are typically developed by web browser vendors, and every major browser has one. In the browser, JavaScript engine runs with rendering engine via document object model. So use of JavaScript engine is not limited to browser. It can be used on server side as well. For example, V8 engine is a core component of Node.js and Dino runtime. every browser vendor should create their own JavaScript engine, and as EcmaScript will get released every year with the new standard specification, every browser need to update their runtime so that this feature will be accommodated in that particular runtime. Here is the list of browsers JavaScript engine. Google Chrome has V8, Mozilla Firefox has SpiderMonkey, and Safari has JavaScript Core WebKit. So each JavaScript engine has their own unique implementation, but those should follow EcmaScript standard. Differences in browser support. So there are differences in the way browser supports the language. If you recall, scripting language should follow EcmaScript specification. So releasing a new edition of EcmaScript does not mean that all JavaScript engine in existence suddenly will have all those new features. For example, if TC39 committee approves proposal and it passes through all stages, then it will be added to EcmaScript specification in next year. But this development will take some time to adopt this new feature into the browser. Browser vendor need to update JavaScript runtime engine to support this feature. It is up to organization that is responsible for JavaScript engine to be up to date about the latest EcmaScript specification and to adopt its changes. So this implementation takes time from month to year, but again it depends on vendor to vendor. Now let's assume new feature is launched as a part of EcmaScript 2022 and you want to use it in your code, but your client or end user uses browser which support older EcmaScript version, for example EcmaScript 2015. Then would you be able to use it in your code? How can you check if specific feature work in any browser, or which browser has not implemented recent feature? So I'll answer to all these questions in next video while covering transpilation and polyfill. In this video, we have covered JavaScript and web browser history, what is EcmaScript, and TC39 committee who maintains EcmaScript version, JS engine overview. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked this video, drop a like, leave a comment, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel. In next video, we will understand JavaScript transpilation feature and polyfills. Thank you for watching this video.